I think that was my cue. I don't want this to sound like a complaint because it's more of a celebration. Last night and today, both times, I had to follow a brilliant, articulate woman. That's something to celebrate. Women have only had the vote for about 100 years, and we're still treated as chattel slaves around most of the world. And the fact that brilliant, articulate, committed women are a key part of this movement is really, really something to celebrate. Thank you. So last night I kind of issued a half-ass invitation for people to talk all night about the questions we're up against, and we lasted, I don't know, 18 minutes. But I did wake up in the night thinking about what are the key questions really confronting us. I noticed that, while Kathy told me she was writing her speech this morning, I never saw her look at it because it was so clearly right here. I did make notes, and there's several questions that I wanted to speak to. One of them is peace. And I've never considered myself really a peacenik. I've considered myself, and I think there's a basis for it, someone who wanted to change the world and has been actively working on this for as long as that thought occurred to me. However, there's an element of the peace movement that I think we really have to strengthen, and that is the understanding that right now, at every moment we go through the world, we should be trying to create the world we want to live in and we want to leave. That is not just respecting each other, it is appreciating and elevating each other and working to help people be the people who can lead others, bringing forth new leaders, and appreciating whatever the age is, that people have a great deal of not just lived experience, but knowledge that we should be paying attention to and struggling over. However, we should not be at peace. We cannot be at peace with living in the world's #1 imperialist power. We are living off the fat of the globe, my friends. We all drove here. We burn fossil fuels in the country that produces more liquid fossil fuel than any other country. The clothes we wear, everything we do now, since 1980 in particular, has been internationalized in production. Things are not produced here. What's produced here is finance, insurance, real estate. Very expensive health care. Very bad health care. Very bad food. This is what we get for living in this voracious society, which we have to change. We cannot be at peace with the planet burning up, as David was talking about last night. This is a real burning man, not some performance in the desert. It's happening quicker than anybody expected, even the scientists who predicted it. We cannot be at peace with white supremacy. I'm sorry, white supremacy was in the White House, is still in the White House, is coming back to the White House. This society was built on the enslavement of black people and the genocide of Native people. Until we have a revolution and thoroughly change this government, we live with that. We're responsible for changing it. We cannot be at peace with patriarchy. We live in a world where sexual exploitation is at an industrial scale. where women in this country no longer have the right to control their bodies, that we fought for hard. Many of the women in this room, I'm sure, were with me fighting for the right to determine our fertility and for birth control. But this ban on abortion is not saving women's lives. It is threatening women's lives all over the world because of the crisis in maternal and infant health. And we cannot be at peace. Thank you, my brother. We cannot be at peace with the fact that 30% of the 8 billion people in the world are food insecure or at starvation level. We cannot be at peace with 65 million refugees created by the so-called war on terror of this government. We can't be at peace with the climate refugees created by the imperialist system in the world. And by imperialism, I mean capitalism taken to the level of not just stealing resources, but exporting production and exploiting people all over the world. All coming into New York, Los Angeles, into the coffers of this system. We have to be not at peace. We have to be maladjusted to injustice. And I know all of us are maladjusted to injustice. It should be our motto. We are not comfortable. We are not settled. We love each other, but we are profoundly unhappy and not accepting of the terms set by this system. One question we all really have to address continually is this American chauvinism that somehow America is the best. And I don't just mean in baseball. It's a thought that other countries, other cultures, other languages, other societies are somehow inferior to this? This one built on slavery and genocide? We have the facts at our disposal to demolish that myth. Point number 3, I want us to have up here is that this is a system of not just capitalism, but imperialism. This capitalism is not just greed. It is multiplied on a world scale where the resources are literally stolen. Why is coltan coming from Africa to make our cell phones? Simple question. Why are these resources in the hands of the U.S. imperialists and not the people of the world? This is freedom and democracy? This is a friggin' myth. It's all bought at the barrel of the gun, essentially. This is what I learned as a 15-year-old, being the baby at anti-war protests, when people would sit me down and explain how this works. And I cherish all of the people that are now, I should say they're the age of my elders, like beloved Nick Modern, who this morning was telling the podcast that he is in no way done, approaching the age of 85. I lost myself on an emotional detour, sorry. It's a system of capitalism, imperialism. It's not just bad people in office. It's not just a war or an impulse to make a lot of money. It's built in. It's headed up right now by Joe Biden, likely, in my opinion, to be headed up by Donald Trump again. We have a very short time in order to take action to get people into the streets to stop that, and that is what it's going to take, my friends. It's always what it takes. Voting is a thing, and even I voted for Joe Biden this time. Can you imagine? I voted for Joe Biden, only to prevent you know who from being in at this point. We have a system that is driven to war, domination, and imperialism. We have to change this system. It is not the way humanity has to be. It's just the way it is. It is not inevitable that the strongest rise to the top. No, the best and brightest could rise equally with everyone else. We have the resources to provide for everyone. It's what makes me a communist, y'all. We do not have to accept the way things are. But the way things are always going to bring contention and war until we stop it. It's a very rare time right now, and we could be crushed by fascist violence. I just want to remind people that the election coming next year could very well bring Donald Trump to power again. And in the second term, we could see things that happen very quickly. With the demolishment of civil rights, it's already happening. Women have lost a fundamental right in many states to determine what happens with our own bodies. We have become commodities in the eyes of the state again. Many other things are happening that are very ominous, and it's going to take determined leadership from people who have the decades of knowledge to understand what has happened and to look back and say, no, really never again. I really appreciate what David in particular said last night and in an interview this morning about the Ukraine war, really being a proxy war right now between the U.S. and Russia. I started to say the Soviet Union. It's the U.S. and Russia, and China is very much in the mix here. We have to be very, very concerned. My colleagues in Hawaii right now, in World Can't Wait, are reporting the incredible military buildup in Hawaii. That the tone has changed. Everything is directed towards China. This is a very, very serious situation, and we know in this movement the only antidote to that is the determined action of people to stop it. It is not going to be stopped by the government. It's got to be the action of the people to stop it from the government. This war in Ukraine is a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia. It's very, very serious. We should not be entering into either side. I applaud the efforts of people to call for a peaceful settlement. And I only wish we could have mass protest right now in the streets, because that is really required. This is not just a side note, but my organization, World Can't Wait, has a program called We Are Not Your Soldiers, which has actually grown since 2008. We started out with a bunch of white guys who were veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan, and now we have every nationality and some women represented speaking several languages. And what we do is send these veterans into high school and college classrooms. And they don't go in and say, don't go into the military because you might get killed. They say, don't go into the U.S. military because you could lose your humanity. This is very important. We speak to thousands of students every year, a tiny drop in the bucket, but so important to turn things around in terms of how people are thinking. We don't have options to offer them. We don't have better jobs. It sucks out there. But don't go in and lose your humanity and kill others and be fodder, as they used to say, in a rich man's war. I think this is very important work. I have a flyer on the table if people would like to invite us or make a contribution. Every veteran who speaks gets paid $125 per class because we raise the money from good people like you. but we can no longer allow these imperialists to set the agenda. The people have to rise, and our agenda of peace for all and an end to the worldwide military contention has to be brought into being. I think it's going to take a revolution. I'm a follower of the revolutionary Babavekian. I brought material about that. If you want to know more about it, please talk to me and we'll continue. By the way, I don't have a big social profile on social media, but my organizations do, and I love to correspond with people, and I even do email. And I know it dates me tremendously, but it's debra.sweet@gmail. And I have a list that I send out periodically. Write me if you want to be on it. I think this is all really important work that you all are doing. I appreciate being in the trenches with you. I hope to see you, some of you, Saturday, next Saturday, Sunday, the 17th, in New York. We're going to be marching to save the planet. We're going to be marching in the name of humanity. We're going to be marching against militarism and imperialism. And we'll be meeting in Midtown, I think it's 11 o'clock. I know Paki is going to be there.
Yeah.
And everyone else, you're busy, will be trying to represent for you in the anti-militarism contingent, because people have got to understand that a very big part of climate change is the U.S. military, the biggest single user of fossil fuels historically on the globe. This is why ending this empire is essential for saving humanity. I'm so honored to be here among all these wonderful people and my other speakers, and I look forward to talking with you all more. Thank you.